Wally, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.
This exhibition is called Go Forth. It's on view through Friday, July 29th, and is generously sponsored by Summers More. This is Wally. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on this beautiful joint exhibition with Teal Roberts-Wilson.
Well, great. Yeah, no, well, thank you for having me. And thank the Art Base for everything they've done for the community with not only this show, but all the shows in the future, in the past, and all the events that you guys host.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Of course. We're so happy to be here, so happy to do it. Happy to be able to show artists like you and like Teal. You're a sculptor. Would you call yourself a sculptor?
I would. I'd call myself a constructivist.
Okay.
And I don't think it's a real term used in the right definition.
Yeah.
But in my view, a constructivist is somebody who uses the material around them to create the art that they see in that material.
Okay.
So,
So all of the sculptures in this exhibition are made from found materials. So metal, wood.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Steel.
Steel.
Anything I could find
Yeah.
around me to do this, but mostly steel.
Mostly steel. Where do you find this? Where do you find your materials? Where do you find this stuff?
Well, my wife would call me a hoarder. I go to junk piles. The funny thing is I had a trash business and I had construction roll-offs full of metal back in the day, but I never utilized it. Now metal's harder and harder to find. They're melting it down. You can't pick in any of the metal yards. So you really have to be clever in discovering metal.
Yeah.
Metal with design, which is usually the older metal.
Okay.
So that's what I look for mostly.
Well, you have an absolutely stunning studio space, and out back you call it a junkyard, but it's the most organized, beautiful,
Fun place to be.
yeah, it's just incredible. And so you have all of these heavy, some of them intense, some of them hard to move, some of them just lined up and easy to look at. I mean, that in and of itself is like an installation. So you really have this way with materials that's fascinating to observe.
And that's the fun part, because I'm a constructivist. Finding the material, finding the right use for the material is what it's all about for me. And so it's a little bit limiting in a sense, because it limits what you can make. Right. But at the same time, it's opportunity, because it shows what can be done with that piece.
Yeah.
So.
Really excellent. So you and Teal both applied for an exhibition at the Art Base for this year, for this show, and the Art Base put you two together. We asked you to do a show together. So prior to last year, neither of you had met each other.
Correct.
So you sort of took this curatorial leap on behalf of the Art Base. And I think that the result is pretty stunning. I mean, you both have this monochromatic work. Teal brought in some of your found metal and put works on it. You wound up introducing some color, which just happens to correspond with what very little color Teal has. And so this beautiful show came to be. And I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't necessarily a collaboration in terms of making work together. It was more a collaboration just in meeting each other and seeing each other's work and
Exactly.
trusting the process.
Right, and that's true. We hadn't ever met before.
Yeah.
And I did a little research on her work, and I wondered how we were going to bring it all together. But when I met Teal, her energy and her enthusiasm, her creativity was so strong that I knew there was not going to be any problem.
I mean, I would say you're both pretty prolific artists, so I think you two share that for sure.
Yes, no, we had a nice dialogue. Yeah. Nice dialogue. Still didn't, at the end of the session, we didn't know how we were going to bring it together. Patina was one of the words we used, but just the energy was enough to make it fun.
Amazing.
And to make it work, I think.
Well, it's an excellent show. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I was working in figurative for the last few years. During COVID with the pandemic and isolation and the crazy political scene, I decided that I needed to bring more empathy, more humanity to my work, and that's why I brought the figurative into it. It's the only way I know how to do that. And I wanted to continue that with the art base, only bring them smaller and maybe abstract it a little bit and add color. So there was a few challenges to bringing this together, but I wanted to make pieces that had expression and try to use as few pieces of found metal as possible. So
I mean, I think you achieved that. This is it's a beautiful expression of that, in fact, because you do have figurative work where it's very clearly, you know, a human, or there's a gesture, and these are abstracted, and yet there's a humanity, and you want to engage with them on that level, but then you can sort of pull back and identify all the individual pieces, and you have these pops of color that are almost primary, and so also in that way they seem accessible, but your decision and how you chose to apply color is really interesting and lovely.
well, thank you. It's very nice.
Yeah.
I was trying, the word I was going to use for these was abstract expressionism, which isn't the way it's defined, but you got the abstract and you got the expression. Abstract expressionism is defined as spontaneous, subconscious, creation. And although I love those guys, the Motherwells and the de Koonings and all those, I wanted to try to bring a little pattern to my chaos. And the only way I knew how to do that, well, there's a few ways you can do that as a sculptor. You could use mathematical formulas, golden ratio, Fibonacci, or you could use what I call universal truths, which are things that everybody can recognize, like symbolism, symbolism in religion or language or architecture. And I was trying to use the universal truth, in my definition, of expression, of humanity, and trying to bring that across with these found pieces of metal. So
Well,
it's a fun show.
it is a fun show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. Please come see it. It's excellent on through Friday, July 29th. Thank you so much, Wally.
Thank you. Awesome.